Hi, and welcome back to Continual. We're on another episode of the panel room where tonight we are going to be talking about, what are we talking about? Writer's block. Yes. What is it? How to beat it? How to break it? And what do we do with it? I'm your host, Jim Nettles, before I forget my own name again. So let's go around and see who else is stuck this evening. So, Lynn, you're up first.
Hi, Len Berry. I am the writer of Ethereal Darkness. So for me, writer's block means that I have to, is it dark? Is it mean? Is it nasty? Okay. Where's my thread? Where's my silver lining in this? So that's what Ethereal Darkness is. I have sci-fi and fantasy books in that vein, and I will eventually figure out what the next thing I need to write is.
Jamie?
I'm Jamie Garner. I'm a professional author and editor. I write under the pen names of J.B. Garner, Amelia Quantrill, and Temple Hart. And writer's block is just part of writing.
Jenny?
Hi, I'm Gini Koch. I write the Alien Catherine Kitty Cat series for doll books. I also write under a variety of other pen names and in all lengths and genres. And despite all that, it can strike you even if you're writing all the time, but there are ways to get around it.
James?
Hey, I'm James Pittman. We're under J.E. Pittman. I do the Felix Chance series, Pandora Squad series, urban fantasy, action, sci-fi, a little bit of everything. I bounce around because, well, I just can't stay put in one place. And for me, writer's block is the ultimate signal I'm doing something wrong and I need to figure out what before I get too far.
Fraser?
I'm Fraser Sherman. I write historical fantasy and film reference. And yeah, there's all kinds of writer's block, but they are curable or fixable.
And Wendy?
Hi, I'm Wendy Van Camp. I am Poet Laureate Emerita from the city of Anaheim, California. I write speculative poetry, and my specialty is sci-fi coup, which is science fiction themed haiku poems. I also write historical fiction, regular sci-fi prose, and I'm the editor of Eccentric Orbits, a anthology of science fiction poetry.
And hopefully, now that my mic is facing the right direction, you can hear me a little better. It's going to be that kind of night. So, one of the things I will never forget talking about writer's block, and I don't remember if I was on the panel or just sitting in the panel. I don't remember, but it's in one of my books, is Chelsea Quinn Yarborough made a statement. Somebody had asked and said, "What do you do about writer's block?" And she said, "I take a look over at the stack of bills next to my desk and I get my ass back to work." And it's one of those things no matter what it is, at some point in time, we're all going to get stuck, right? There's going to be that point where whether it's the story's not working, the characters have stopped speaking in your head because they're having a protest. We all know that writer's block takes a lot of forms. But let's kind of start with this idea. How does it take a form for you? What does it do? Do you get stuck? What else can you do? So, Lynn, we'll start with you on that one. What kind of form and shape does a writer's block take for you?
Oh, when it really hits me, I'm going, and then it's just, I've got the fuel to go, but the juice just does not go. It does not flow, no matter the flow state I was been in, nothing. I can't even fake words. And it's full stop. It sucks, especially when it hits me bad. It comes out of it's like I'm hanging out at a coffee shop somewhere, and it comes out from behind me and says, "Hey, ah!" So that's writer's block for me. It's violent and cruel, and yeah.
So, Jamie, what's it look like for you?
Well, writer's block for me is it would be a kindness if I got just the sudden freeze because then I would know to stop. Usually my writer's block takes the form of this sort of like I am technically writing words, but they're all wrong, and I know it the second I'm typing them. And I keep thinking I could stop and I just take a moment. Oh, I just have to reword the sentence and reword the sentence and reword the sentence and reword and reword and reword. And I waste a lot of time until I realize I have blocked because I'm just trying to force the water through the dam, so to speak. But that's how my writer's block takes shape, unfortunately.
Jenny?
I've got like two. One is I think James and I are the same in this. When I just can't write on something, it's because I've done something wrong and my brain just says, nope, no, 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 we're not going 50,000 words over wrong like you did that first time. So I have to stop and figure out, is it this particular document that I'm working on, or is it a different document? What's wrong where? And that goes to the second point. I have learned through lots of pain that, well, I learned actually through lots of memes. I have ADHD. And I looked it up and it's like, oh my goodness, I've like got almost all of it. And every symptom, there she is. I need to work on multiple projects at a time, or I can't work. And so when I feel stressed and I'm trying to finish something like, book 17, right? It didn't work. I had to, and everything I was writing was like Jamie was saying, was all wrong. It's like the words are right, but nothing's actually right. So I have to both be working on multiple projects and listen when I come into a screeching halt. Is it the one I'm working on, or do my brain just go, oh, I just figured out that other one you screwed up. Let's get over there. So those are mine.
Yeah, that's the one I get. Mr. Pittman.
Also similar to Jenny. Yeah, the first one, if I'm doing something wrong, I'm just trucking along, writing the words, they're coming along, and then it's like I'm going through molasses and I'm trying to like wade through the crap until I realize idiot subconscious is telling you you've done something wrong. Figure out where it is and fix it before you move on. Uh, Other than that, yeah, I will trick my ADHD brain into multitasking by plotting or absorbing knowledge or reference for, say, Pandora Squad while I'm finishing Felix, or an entirely different project that I get inspired for, and those words demand to come out first. And so I task switch, but I try to maintain focus on the one that needs to be done next. But that puts me further ahead on the other ones when I get back to them. The third one for me is just the ultimate blank page in the head. And it's just like I don't even know what word's supposed to come here because obviously this word is not in my brain yet. So I need to be patient and I need to open myself up to the world and see what the world's giving me to jump off from next.
Fraser?
Like some of the others speaking. Okay, the first major writer's block I was on a book I wrote years ago. I'd finished a scene, it was workable, and when I tried to go on, this discomfort rose up from my gut, and I eventually realized that was a sign the scene was not satisfactory, even though it worked. I had to go back and do it better, and I eventually did, and then things proceeded. There is also I've been working on trying to fix this for hours, and I need to stop and take a break and clear my head. And the something in real life like sick pets or stuff like that is distracting me, in which case I just need to give up because otherwise I will sit there telling myself I'm writing and not doing it, and that just makes me miserable. So those are the three main kinds.
Wendy?
Well, I did suffer from writer's block for many years, mainly through my 30s. I was a filmmaker. I was happy being a producer director. And so most of my creative energy went into filmmaking and to television. And I just kind of stopped writing, even though I had been a prolific writer when I was young as a teenager and early 20s. And I just couldn't seem to focus my mind on the words. I occasionally I would try to write articles for trades, and it was a slog every time. And I don't know what happened in my 40s, but suddenly a character just woke up out of the blue in my mind and wouldn't stop jabbering at me until I started writing his story. And that's what brought me back to writing and ultimately to poetry and all the rest. When I'm afflicted with writer's block these days, it's usually more short term and it's kind of a form of exhaustion. I'll have like 20 projects, I have deadlines coming, and the magazines are waiting. And for some reason, I just can't seem to get the words out. And I try, and it just gets worse and worse and worse. And I find that that's a sign that I need to take a break. I need to rest a little bit, get away from the computer, do something else. And for me, that outlet is painting. So I do watercolors and urban sketching, and I just try to give myself the time to just take off for a day or two and just do something completely different. And I find that if I do that, it helps rest my brain enough that I can return to the writing. But everybody's different, but I guess in my mind, it's exhaustion, and that's what causes it.
I'm so jealous of everybody who's like, and I paint and I craft and I do this. And I'm like, I can write and that's it. That's all I do.
Same.
So,
Hey, you
Only-
could take up doing Gundam models with me.
doing what kind of dolls with you?
Gundam
Oh.
models.
Yeah, that was a fun live stream.
Oh.
I missed
Yeah,
that.
I missed it.
I missed that. So
Well,
I don't know
No, I
what
meant yours.
we're talking about. We'll talk
Oh.
afterwards. I'm not sure what we're talking about.
How dare
I'll
you
get you
invoke
caught up.
Gunpla?
Okay.
model
Yes,
painting.
Gunpla,
Just go,
exactly.
just go with models. It'll be okay. Well, and I think that goes into where I want to go next is really start talking through some of the ways to manage it, some of the techniques to break it. How do you avoid getting into it? Because I think that we all have different causes, right? I think to Wendy's point, a lot of the time it is burnout, or, sometimes it's a matter of deadlines and the body goes and says, no, we're just gonna, watch that deadline whiz by and keep working.
I don't know what you're talking about, Jim, at all. Never, never has
How
that
many
happened.
years late was book 17?
8.
Oh.
So yeah, I got
Eight.
other things done, just not that. I also forgot to say that the other thing that gets me, and this is something like what's going on right now. Well, we're filming of the California fires. I'm from Southern California. I'm watching places I love burn to the ground. I'm worried about friends and family. It makes it hard, very hard to write, especially since what I'm writing right now is set literally in places that are just burned to the ground. So I'm like, oh, I'm writing in an alternate universe now. That was not what I expected. So that is hard. I handle differently than the others.
Well, but I mean, again, I think this gets into knowing and understanding a lot of the times the kinds of things that trigger it, right? Sometimes it is the work itself. Sometimes it is the other things that we do often have to pay the bills. Sometimes it is life, right? Life happens, family, pets, kids, friends, the world. We all have those different triggers that come and say, well, the brain's just not going to brain on that today. And I mean, there's nothing that will clear my mind like go fire up the torch and play with glass at a couple of thousand degrees, right? Um, but there's a lot of different ways and techniques that we can all use to get things going. And I mean, sometimes it really is a matter of being aware of your triggers. What are the things that push you along those lines to try to avoid it? Other times it's just a matter of the brain goes and says, I haven't figured out exactly yet what you need to do here. And sometimes writer's block literally is that part of you need to do something here, put your note here, come back and blow shit up, right? It could be that simple, and you keep writing, because you just can't do whatever it is. You just know what needs to happen, but you don't know what needs to happen. So, Jamie, what are some techniques you've got? How do you avoid writer's block? How do you manage it when it happens? What are some of the tools that you use?
Well, for me, well, So I actually have I have a fairly serious anxiety and panic disorder. Uh, so honestly, a lot of the things I use, this is not meant to look sympathy, but actually so a lot of the techniques I have learned to manage my anxiety actually also help me manage my writer's block. They're probably pretty closely tied, right? I tend to get writer's block when I'm exhausted, when I'm tired, the classic burnout stuff. Or when something is just not jibing and I'm getting anxious about trying to make it work. I know I can make it work, but my brain starts getting in a loop, and that's why I keep hammering at it as opposed to recognizing it and cutting it off. So the first I think thing anyone should always try when they do experience writer's block is stop what they're doing and step away. I think that's a universal step one, because give a chance for the brain to rest, to think it over, to not slam against the wall. Um, but pretty, immediately after that, I use the rationality approach. It's what helps with my anxiety, but also helps with this, which is you often get kind of worked up in your thoughts and emotions and expectations and whatnot when you're working on something creative because it uses so much of you. So it can be very intensely frustrating when you do hit that wall and you start catastrophizing, especially when there's deadline involved and things like that. The rationality approach is simply stepping back, taking that breath, and then lay out factually what's going on versus what you feel emotionally is going on. My deadline is this. I don't necessarily have to write right this moment. I will still make my deadline. Or like, there is something wrong with the scene, and I know there is. So as opposed to continue writing, the logical response is to take a moment and analyze and then restructure. But it's all about lists of rationalities and comparing them. Then if that doesn't work, sometimes I just need a brain break. I need to do something else that is completely unrelated, but I find personally relaxing. With I play video games. I sometimes read books. I'll sometimes watch a movie. Taking walks actually is incredibly helpful. Getting outside stimulus that isn't like the four walls of my apartment. So that's usually my go-tos.
Jenny?
Well, I discovered that the other thing I really need to do is have someone else on the phone with me, aka body doubling. And she didn't even mention it, and my feelings are hurt because I body double with Jamie all the
I
time.
had to save something for you, babe.
That's true. Thank you. Thank you. So body doubling has been huge for me because within body doubling, you can also do the other thing that helps us is brainstorming. To give Jamie another shout out, I really was stuck. I'm on deadline for a book that is due very, very soon while I'm watching Southern California burn. And I keep saying I'm really having problems, and everybody's like, it's fiction. Hey, just move the location, right? I'm like, that is not helping me at all. So I mentioned it to Jamie. She's like, think that you're writing a memorial to the place you love so that you like keep it. I'm like, oh my God, that's great. I should have asked you first and ignored all those other people. So that was helpful, right? Very helpful. In brainstorming, we brainstorm all the time. I also have to critique partners, same thing, and my writing partner and everything else. So there's a lot of time when if I can brainstorm, even for somebody else, it helps me. If I'm brainstorming for them, I can still go back with that creative energy. And then again, multiple things. Oh, can I not work on this? Open something else. Everything's due. So just open something and write on it. And then really alcohol. I'm not gonna lie. Take a couple of drinks because I do. When Hemingway, write drunk, edit sober. It helps.
Oh, that
Okay, because
guy.
what it does, it shuts up the voice that says, hey, that's probably not very good. Couldn't you be funnier? Hey, do you really think that was written well? It doesn't matter. You need to get the words on paper. You can go back and edit them when you're sober. So, and drunk, not drunk, because I rarely get drunk, especially in my own home, because, we have alcohol. I can have it whenever I want. So I almost never have it. in that weird dichotomy. But when I have one, it's like, oh yeah, and then I can go back. Oh, Len just asked me to explain what body doubling is. Thank you. Body doubling is where you're working either with somebody right next to you, or in the case when your people are far flung, with somebody on the phone with you. You get on, you make your pleasantries, you come in and say hi, right? And then you both get to work. And I pretty much learned to write doing this with my main critique partner. I didn't even realize that's what we were doing. Okay. But we did it for years. I would finish my corporate work for this point in time, and now I'm taking a break because I'm stuck on the corporate work. So now I have to go to the writing work, and I would just flip back and forth. So I was always doing multiple projects, and I was always doing body doubling when I stopped doing it. It's amazing, 8 years later, right? The book that's due comes out. So body doubling is there's somebody that's like they're with you, but you're both working whenever it is, but you can stop and go, what is the word that what is the thing? It's on roads, we drive on it, it's a word, and they will go tar, no, asphalt, yes, right? And then you can all move on about your lives. So that's really saved me a lot. And I can body double with anybody. And sometimes that's bad if it's somebody that doesn't know that's what I'm doing with them on the phone.
Mr. Pittman, how about you, sir?
Uh, so I have a lot of the same techniques that have already been mentioned. To take a step back, breathe, assess, and depending on what type of block I'm in, I use different strategies. So if I'm having trouble, I'm at a plot point and I need something to happen, or I'm trying to figure out what's going on. A lot of the times, I will do a quick shuffle and pull out the card of some variety. I've got tarot, I've got Story Forge, I've got Cthulhu, I've got my D&D deck of many things. Just something to trigger something that was not currently in my brain. Um, if I am needing a character who is different than me, uh, I really love to write in public. Like I'll go sit at a cafe or the bar. I have a specific bar that I like to go to, and the bartender has a has aided my quest for alcoholic cocktails that will get me out of my head if I'm too deep in. And as Jim probably knows, that takes a lot. Um,
Scotch does
so
wonders, though.
I'm just glad I'm not the only one using alcohol. Okay. I feel a lot better now.
yeah, I had to go a
Mhm.
bit harder than Scotch. This one's called the plot twist. It's great. Uh, anyway, so what I'll do there, I will open myself up to what the world gives me. I was stuck on a opening of a book that I, or not open of a chapter in a book I wrote years ago. And a friend of mine pops in the bar and just right ray of sunshine says some line that I never in my life would have ever come up with. Boom, character moment, spun it off from there. Saying that just took that energy and ran with it. That'll happen a lot. Um, that's if I'm just kind of in that sloggy, I'm not sure what's going on next type of writer's block. If I'm at the point of I'm exhausted, well, I do like other people do. I switch it up entirely. I go for non-literary pursuits and I will go for like my visual arts work. I will either do my graphic design or I'll do my photography or I'll do something in that vein, which aside from giving me really kick-ass covers, um, just activates a different area of the brain. And if all that fails, I go find a good book I love to read and reseed some good words or watch a good movie that I know is going to inspire the creative juices to flow. And those are my main ones now. I used to, and after Jenny was talking about it, I realized I used to do this with my best friend. It wasn't exactly body doubling, but fellow creative writing group core. Uh, we would always text, and we responded within like minutes of each other. So, I was like, hey, what should I have running through the museum? Which is funnier? And that's how Elder the Moose came to be in Felix. So I'm like, okay, I gave him some options: goat, deer, moose. How do I make a moose appear? Okay, whatever. That's the funniest one. We'll figure it out later.
You just needed a
Uh,
squirrel.
yeah, sometimes squirrel, sometimes squirrel. It depends on what comes out where. Um, that's I haven't really found somebody to duplicate that. Unfortunately, I lost that friend. Um, but I was just kind of realizing after Jenny was talking about it, like, oh, I should probably work on finding another brain twin type friend, which is quite hard.
Person who
Fraser, how
shares a
about
table
you?
with
We
you.
should all be
Oh,
offended. I think
I
we should all
mean,
be
what?
offended that
You're
he
close.
looks
You're
around
second close.
I think, I mean, he looks around the room, essentially goes, I need to find somebody. Nobody here, but somebody.
My dance card's already booked.
Yeah, I know. It
Oh, gee, we'd add you in a heartbeat. Don't even question. You want in, you're in.
so Fraser, what about you? What are some of the ways you break writer's block?
Let's see. If it's a matter of I've written something and it's wrong, and it's one of the things you need to learn to do is listen to your gut, because there is a difference between I did something wrong. I cannot define it, but at some level my mind knows, and oh, this sucks. This whole book sucks. I need to rewrite the whole thing, the panic reaction Ginny was talking about, because we do get that sometimes, and it is a false snare and you do not want to follow it. Sometimes it's just a matter of sitting and thinking. Like there's a line in A Holmes story, Man with a Twisted Lip, where Watson asks, how did you figure it out? I sat up all night smoking an ounce of shag. And basically, sometimes sitting and thinking, though without the ounce of shag in my case, is what it takes. Sometimes you have to break and learn what works. If it's simply a matter of crap, I don't know what comes next, Raymond Chandler's line about when in doubt, have someone come through the door with a gun or a spell book or a Lovecraftian horror or whatever works really well, especially if it's early draft, because then something is happening and your protagonist will respond, and then a lot of the time something usable comes out of that.
Yeah, I still remember the line of when you get stuck enough, either blow something up or have somebody show up naked, one or the other.
Yep, those work too.
Depends on your genre.
Yeah.
Well,
True.
Wendy,
Well, it depends on how I'm blocked. Now, when I write poetry, I tend to do it outside my house. I have a home studio, which is where I am right now as I speak to you. But I find that when it comes to creative work, I don't do well here. I can write copy and marketing, I can do graphics and art, but when it comes to creative writing and poetry, no. I have a husband and a dog and a cat, and they all just I just can't work here. They interrupt me too much. So what I do is I create writing kits. I have one that's for just my poetry, where I bring my poetry composition notebook and my favorite fountain pen, and I go to my local coffee house. And the act of going to the coffee house seems to set my mind into this mode of, oh, it is time to write poetry. And all the ideas that I've been thinking of, I store them in a way that's easy for me to access. I have like a little Kobo e-reader that can access Pocket, and it takes all the illustrations out. So all I have is the text. And I save articles from science magazines where I base my scientific and science fiction fantasy poetry on. And so I take these tools and I go to the coffee house, and I know I'm going to be there for a couple of hours. I have my favorite coffee drinks. And I don't do alcohol, I'm afraid. I don't write well with alcohol at all, but coffee is good. Coffee works well. And that's how I kind of prep myself to be creative. If I'm working on prose, as like a novel or short story, I have a laptop and I bring that instead. And then I can go ahead and write the words that way. But I find that setting up a time period to write a couple of times a week helps me get the job done. And it gets me away from my husband, who means well. But when I get honeydews all the time, it takes me 20 to 30 minutes to get back into the zone. I would rather go to the coffee house where complete strangers realize I am working and don't bother me. So, um, but there's also a deeper writer's block. And like I spoke of before, when you're just so exhausted. I have many different places that I write for regularly as an essayist, as a poet, and these journals kind of expect things from me from time to time. I write recommendations in books for poets and for novelists. Prefaces, they call them blurbs. I do a lot of that now too. So all these things are on deadline and I need to get them done. Sometimes because they're nonfiction, they're a little more of a slog, and I go, oh, I got to write one more. But, I feel obligated. I've accepted these assignments. I want to get them done. In the case of my of Indie Author Magazine, where I'm a contracted writer, it's money. So I want to make sure I get that done and I do a good job because I want more work, of course. So you just got to kind of remind yourself that you have obligations. This is a job. It's not a hobby anymore. This is how I earn my living. And sometimes when you're earning a living, you can't just do it by the seat of the pants when you want to do it. You have to set a schedule and just get the work done. And I guess I'm kind of at that point now. And I treat it that way. But if I have so many projects coming in and I'm so exhausted that I can't seem to make sense of anything anymore, I know I have to step away. I used to go for walks, although I'm a little more disabled these days. I kind of walk with a cane, so it's not as pleasurable for me to go out and walk the way it used to be when I was younger. But I find I can still hobble along and find a place to paint. So I have my urban sketching kit and my little push-aid box and my paints. And I can at least hobble far enough to find a place to sit. And then I sit and I paint. And I'll allow myself a couple of hours to do that. And I have a local urban sketching group that I join. And it's just fun to be among the other creative painters. And they talk about things that are completely and utterly unrelated to writing. And I love that. It gets me totally away. So find yourself a different kind of creative outlet in addition to writing, even if you're still at the hobby stage, and give yourself permission to do something else. And it's okay. Take the time you need to refresh your mind. I find if I do something like, painting or sketching or whatever, it's creative, but it uses a different part of my brain and it gives that writing place a break. And the trick is just don't do the other alternative too long. Always come back to your bread and butter. And that's kind of what works for me. And that's what I do.
Lynn, how about you?
So I love the intersection of of everything, especially what James and what Wendy have been saying. The taking a walk thing. I mean, that's how we actually got a finished version of the book called The Stand. Stephen King started taking walks when he got stuck. He said, "Hey, why don't I blow all these people up?" And he blew people up, and he got some speed back. And then he got hung up again. He's like, "What do I do now? Blow more of them up." He blew more of them up. It was great, and he got the book done. Um, Another thing that can be done, totally stealing this from my friend Michael J. Allen. What you can do is when you're starting a period when you're going to write. Now, this works for people who like to write to music. If you don't like to write to music, we'll talk on alternative in a moment. You have a piece of music that you always play to start. or maybe it's two pieces, or maybe it's a short playlist. And then by the end of that, you're like, I'm in writing mode. And you're right. I mean, other things you can do, sure, you can draw, you can paint. You do not have to be good at these things. You just do them to get the brain flowing. There is a process called automatic uh, drawing. I like automatic drawing more to get creativity going than automatic writing because automatic writing is a different kind of realm. But automatic drawing, drawing well and that, no, you're just drawing lines and put them wherever. Who cares? It's always abstract. Then there's always, you don't have to be creating it. You just putting it together like a puzzle or say, so automatic drawing, since I didn't define that very well, you just get a blank piece of paper, something to write with. You find a minute or two, you put a timer on it. And you just put it down there and you start going. Maybe up and down line, might be a scribble, you shade around. It's mindless.
So it's like doodling.
It is very much like doodling.
Uh-huh. Well,
It's like doodling, and if you find something to create within that, great. But if you don't, that's fine too. Just put something on the paper. With writing, put something on the paper. You can also always do things like I was going to show a moment ago. You can always do like a little Lego guy. Here's a little Lego beast. Or Jenny's new favorite hobby to come along with me and James, Gunpla, where you build Gundam models and they go. And the instructions are in the box. See, the instructions are in the box. It's.
I sense a terrifying way to not get things done in my future.
You don't do it all at once. Tune in tomorrow
No.
night, and we'll discuss how to make it work just in pieces at a time. It's you basically say, okay, for 20 minutes, I'm just going to do this. You set a timer if you need to. That way you can control your time. It refreshes yourself where you're not trying to push the creativity button consciously. You are letting the answers develop in the back of your brain because human brain is a cool machine. You ask it a question, it's going to work on the answer until it gets one. It might take years. It's going to work on the answer till it gets
So, and one of the most interesting things, and we've kind of started hinting around this, but are there things that you do that kind of set you up successfully to write? Because one of the things I can say for myself a lot of the time, depending on what I'm working on, because I do fiction, nonfiction, kind of all over the place, like a number of us do, is that when I get down to work on the fun projects, right? That's my reward for getting to work on the fun projects. And those tend to be the ones if I'm treating the writing as a reward, I also tend to be able to avoid a lot of the blocks. It may still be crap, but at least that can be fixed, right? But I use
I can work on my taxes or I can write. It's amazing how much writing I get done when I want to work when I
Yeah,
want
well.
to work on my taxes, right? That's
But looking at it, there's a lot of tools, and a number of us have already kind of talked about this, right? Like that notion of if I'm sitting down to work, I'm sitting down to write, I fix a cup of tea, I play a piece of music, I do this. I know for myself, and I've talked about this for years, if I'm sitting down to write, in other words, I'm in draft and edit mode, I'm either doing it in Scrivener or Evernote, depending on what it is and what I'm doing, and sometimes where I'm at the same time as to what I'm doing. But I use that tool to write because it also helps my brain go and say, oh, okay, this can be absolutely crap. We can fix it later, or you can rearrange it, you can restructure it. I've got the tools. And the way I use those tools puts me in a position to fix stuff easier. I know that. But if I'm getting into hard editing, reviews, stuff like that, I'll take that and export it. It goes into Word. The movement of tools is one of those tricks that tells my brain what mode do I need to be in. Sometimes that's what triggers the writer's block going and saying, oh no, we swapped the tool. You can't fix that. But there's a lot of other things that I've seen different people use as tools, tricks. Some of them are biohacks, right? How do we fool the brain into doing what we want it to do? Some of it is how do I use technology to do these things? How do I use things in my environment, my settings, either to help just put me in the right mood to work or know that it's just not happening today and I should go do something else. So Jenny, looking at kind of everything, this is sort of a very open-ended question. What haven't we talked about in the nature of writer's blocks and what happens or options, solutions, tools? What do you think we haven't talked about?
I think one of the things we haven't talked about is how to recognize when you're actually blocked versus when you're merely procrastinating. Because they're very different things, but they look alike. Essentially, in some ways, the outcomes are alike. I am a gold medalist procrastinator. I take the gold at every event I enter, because I'm really good at it. One
If
of
you
the
would only
reasons,
show up at the stand to pick it up your medal, I mean, that's just the
right? They ship them at this point. I didn't even have to show up. They just put the same picture up every year. But over my lifetime, procrastination has paid off all the time. Almost always, procrastination has saved me then and later. So like, oh, I procrastinated doing a project, doesn't matter. That project got canceled. Oh, I didn't do that. I didn't call that person back. Doesn't matter. They went off to do X, right? Oh, I waited to take my cars in for service and I just got an email with $250 off if I just bring them back, right? Procrastination really favors me. That is really different, however, from writer's block. So I have to pay attention to, am I just procrastinating? Am I waiting for the right idea? Because that's a form of procrastination for me. Or am I just like, I don't feel like it today. And instead of just saying, I don't feel like it today, which would be the procrastination response, I'm trying to work. Or am I trying to work and I'm not trying to not get things done. It's just that I'm not doing it. And so, especially the habit we all got into of doom scrolling, is a very hard habit to break. And something always happens, like the fires, that not force, but you feel forced to doom scroll to know what's going on. So I have to look at that. Is that procrastination or am I blocked? And I realized with the fire, I was blocked because I was so upset. And then, I moved past it. Please God, no personally has died. And so, I can move along, but I think it's identifying, is it really writer's block? Are you blocked or are you just futzing around? If you're just like wasting time today because I feel like wasting time, I'm going to sit at my computer so everybody thinks I'm working, but I'm not doing anything. That's very different from being blocked. And I think you have to treat it differently. Am I getting off onto this horse or am I not? For procrastination, and what is the problem for block? And they're different.
Yeah, and unlike certain gigs, sitting there and just staring at a monitor doesn't magically make stuff happen around you.
No, right? I keep sending off for the correspondence courses and how to take the book from my brain and just directly splat it on without doing anything else, and it's just not working.
James,
Well, as a fellow member of the Sacred Order of the Two-Headed Turtle, I understand exactly the dilemma of trying to decipher whether it is procrastination or actual block. And the easy way I've found to determine if I actually go and get stuff done, like the laundry, or tidying up, or vacuuming, or working on the property, or doing something like that, or even just working out. Once I've completed that task, I'm prepped to write. A lot of the time. So that takes care of the procrastination side of the block. That's an easy fix. That's the easiest fix. Just go do something productive, and you'll come back and, as Jim was saying, reward yourself by actually doing something fun.
Mm-hmm.
I do like to piggyback on Len's idea there of the biohacking. Like you do the automatic writing, or you have your certain beverage, or you have your tradition, or light a candle. I used to have a particular scotch that I would always drink when I started a writing session, which unfortunately has been discontinued. And as Jim has learned, I've spent a great deal of time trying to find something that tastes like it. Therefore, I have lots of different bottles that people who come find me at cons get to partake of. Um, don't necessarily
It's
need it
fun.
anymore. Yeah.
Yeah, my liver has.
I mean, you put out a call at Dragon, it's like, send scotch, help, please.
That was
I
the
show
year
up
I
with a
had 30
flask.
something hours of programming, if I remember correctly.
Something like that. And I had a flask. Um, so yeah, stuff like the biohacking, the prepping your mind, and the tool switching. I exclusively use my iPad or my phone and a little white pad software. It's called Bear. It syncs between devices to write. I will never, ever, ever write anything new original on a laptop. The laptop is reserved solely for editing and formatting and other productive things. The creation task, however, is reserved for my handy iPad, my friend's keyboard. I take that to the bar quite frequently. If I'm just out and about or have a sudden idea, pick it up on my phone, finesse something, write the words down, work with it later. Same program shows up on my iPad. If I need to mix stuff up, well, I have a period fancy Bluetooth keyboard with the clacky noises just for some kind of tactile break. Just kind of break the mindset of like I'm getting nowhere with the other method. I mix it up. Try something new. Try to, stimulate some other sector of the brain. Um, so yeah, there's all kinds of little biohacks and rituals that you can do. My biggest one is just go write someplace new. If I'm feeling stale, I go find a new coffee shop. I go find a food hall. I go find a new bar or beer tap room or somewhere I can just kind of sit and write. Um, Either at the bar where people can ask me questions and maybe I'll sell a book out of it, or get a table and hey, I make more at that bar. I got my celebratory drinks for my new book on the couple sitting next to me last night because I was just charming them with stories about writing. Um, and so yeah, I just change up locale, I just mix it up, but I keep that same iPad and keyboard. So that's consistent. Location may be different. So there's the main thing is you have to find what works for you, what you notice a consistent trigger is. If you're trying for that trigger mentality, it can be a small thing. Like Lynn said, the playlist. Start with the same song. If it triggers you into that mood, great. If it's a particular coffee drink, grab it, enjoy, and write. Just figure out what works for you. That's the main thing.
Fraser, how about you?
I find morning routine slash ritual is very helpful for getting me in the mindset. I follow more or less the same routine every morning when I get up and get ready to write. Somewhat modified because we have cats and dogs, and my wife will periodically ask me, please get Plush Dudley to stop trying to eat my breakfast, and then I would have to stop writing and get Dudley a treat or something. But to the extent that I can, following procedure really helps me. It tells me my time is coming up. Now you're at the time to start writing. Let's go. It is, if I wake up early, which I frequently do, it is easy to start writing earlier. It is much harder if I wake up late, so I try to avoid doing that.
Wendy?
Well, I guess I do have a ritual. I never come into my office until I've had my morning coffee and taken a little bit of news. I used to start first thing in the morning, and I just found that it disconnected me a little bit from the world. And so I like to relax a little bit, have that morning cup of coffee. I don't eat breakfast, but I like my coffee, and I let my brain kind of relax and rest. I try not to watch too much negativity on TV if I can avoid it. Like Jenny said, we have the fire situation here in Southern California, and the fires are raging only 30 miles from my home. It's a little concerning. Thankfully for us, anyway, the winds are going in the other direction, and so we should be safe this time, at least. But I have had the fires just right on like a block away in the past, so it can happen to anybody, including us. Thankfully, this time we're safe. Um, but what I do is I allow myself time to relax. I allow myself days off. And I've had to learn this because when I first started writing, there was that adage, you must write every day. That was always thrust on me. And I tried that for a long time. I used to have groups of people that I met with at the coffee house. This was long before the pandemic. And we would all write together. And so it prompted me to have to bring something to work on that's creative with the group. But I found over time, and after a couple of years of doing this, that it was not productive for me because when I went and joined these groups of people, I would find that I would socialize too much and I wasn't actually getting a lot of work done. And I found, though, that I liked the act of going out to the coffee house. That did seem to tell my brain that it's time to write. But I find I'm better off if I just go by myself, because then the social aspect is removed. I go and I write. And like Jim, I have certain kits that I work with too, depending on the project. Again, I have a paper notebook and fountain pen if I'm doing poetry. I find that's the best way for me to compose my work. Um, but when it comes to writing books and short stories, I bring a laptop or my Alpha Smart, whichever I'm in the mood for, and I get my words out that way. And I like to rotate locations too. I find if I go to the same place too often, my brain kind of gets stuck and I don't seem to operate as much. Plus, people see me there and they take it as a sign to come and talk to me. And we can't do that because I got to work. So I rotate among, I have like 5 or 6 different coffee houses and the occasional library that I just go to. And I never am in the same place too often. I don't want to become too familiar. Although at my favorite coffee house, at least the baristas recognize me now just because I've been there long enough down through the years. But at least I don't fall into conversations too often. I'm not going to say that I'm unsocial. I mean, if people talk to me, I'll respond. I mean, and I do enjoy chatting with people. But my purpose to be there is to work on my books and to get work done. So I try to keep that in focus. I here at home, I kind of save my marketing things because we all have blogs and I have other social media things that I develop. I have a Canva account and I create posts for my Instagram and all that good stuff. And I tend to do that here in my home office. And I can check my email here and things like that. All the business end of being a writer. I do that here in my room. And I'm really fortunate that I actually have a full room to write in that I can shut the door. Not that it seems to stop the interruptions, but at least I can shut the door and that's kind of how I do things. So I schedule times to do creative writing a few times a week when I'm here at home and I'm not out at cons or conferences speaking or teaching. And I kind of just set up a schedule and it just seems to work for me. I don't know if it worked for other people, but this is what I've kind of developed over many years and it seems to work for me and I'm happy with it. So, yeah.
Lynn?
Well, again, I've had good enough ideas. Everybody stole them from me and said I did them. So, hey,
Or if there's
um,
anything else you think that we haven't touched on.
well, it's kind of, it's basically, I don't know if this goes to the next question, if there is a next question or not, but I'm going to go ahead and say it anyway. I work on multiple things at once. So if I do get hung up on something to one thing to a point where I'm not going to be able to talk to about it too much, it's like, okay, this I got to figure this one out. I can shift gears. It's like, okay, well, we're not going to raw write on this one. I'm going to now edit the short story I'm working on, or I'll submit another round of short stories. Last year, that's how I got 90% of my short story submissions out the door. Didn't amount to much, not really, but that's okay. You got to submit before they can say yes. You, as long as I'm doing some part of the act of writing in the business sense, then I feel like I am pushing myself toward getting back to the keyboard and actually going, let's go crazy with the words and blow up the characters. Yeah. So I try to make it as much fun as I can. Sometimes I have to do focus timers. I've got an app I've been using lately on this thing that's been all about self-care. And one of the things on it is put a focus timer, put a timer for focused work. And it changes every day. It could say you can do it 10 minutes or 20 minutes or 30 minutes or 45 or a whole hour. And I run that, and that's when I just do my raw writing. Just boom. And I can do more after that or less after that. It's fine. But it just, there's a little bit of a push that I can give myself to make it happen. And there's also that point where it's like, all right, nothing's working. I've got to edit something. I've got to read something. I've got to get out Sketchpad and scribble something. I've got to play with the red panda. Whatever works, you have to distract the conscious mind enough to where the unconscious mind can say, hey, here's how you dream while you're awake. And you say, oh, okay, how do I describe that in words? Here are the words you use. And then you're back. You have to find your own way.
All right, Jamie, and you get the last word on this. What haven't we talked about?
I think there's really one overarching principle to all of this that I think everyone has to keep in mind, and all the people
Don't
out there
become a
looking for
writer.
advice.
Oh, wait, sorry.
Well, that is a bigger, overarching meta advice. But specifically for this topic, try everything, all the advice suggested here, but don't feel discouraged if our advice doesn't work. Because just like how every writer has a unique method, every writer has a unique method of breaking the block. So if things don't work, just keep trying. You will eventually find what works for you, whether it's any of the things we said or something unique to you. Just keep at it. You'll find your way through.
I do have one other, and it totally relates to what Jamie just said. Don't romanticize writer's block.
Don't romanticize suffering either. Writer's suffering.
Oh my
It all
God.
works together.
All the stuff.
Yep.
The moment you romanticize it, then your brain says, oh, this is what we want. We're just so romantic and dramatic and everything else. And because, there's always that guy's like, I've had writer's block for 20 years. Well, great for you, man. Okay, I have deadlines. So do not romanticize it. It isn't something to be desired. Okay. It's not something to brag about. I've had writer's block. There's a cream for that. So don't make it this romantic thing. And it's like, well, I tried everything. No, you didn't. You just tried what we said or something, but try something else. Don't just decide you have writer's block and held them off.
And don't quit.
And some people should quit, but not if you want to be successful. Oh, I'm sorry. Was that my out loud voice? Sorry.
Yeah. Well, we knew it was coming. Well, before we all get blocked into here, let's make sure everybody knows where to find you guys. Website, social media, the latest thing that they need to be picking up as well. So, Lynn, you're up first.
You can find me at len-berry.com. I also, that will link to, basically it directly links to my books. The most recent of which is Loyalty of Severus, Dune for Trans Girls. Lots of space Romans and future Amazons blowing each other up and talking philosophy and fun and excitement. I also have a new YouTube channel that I have been using once a week to work on the Gundam models we discussed earlier. That is youtube.com at Red Comet Rising because I while I build, I jabber on about my upcoming Red Comet setting.
Jamie?
Well, you can find me. Easiest way is my website, jbgarnerwrites.com. You can find information on all my books, pen names, all that jibber jabber there. Also, you can find me across the internet, most social medias JB Garner Writes. Just look for me, you'll find me. Um, and as far as new and upcoming stuff, just this past December, my publisher, Ginger Blue Publishing, who I love to death, has put out my first debut novel, Amelia Quantrill. It's film noir meets romantasy. Uh, that Songs and Sorcery, and I have another big debut coming up in February. The Powers That Be. It's the first book of the Unnatural Powers series. It is superhero sapphic romance.
Jenny?
I had my copy of her book because she is my February book of the month in my book club.
Oh,
So GiniKoch.com. I'm all over Facebook, X, Twitter, Blue Sky, and Pinterest. If you want to sign up for my free newsletter, hook me up. You can go to the bottom of any of the pages on my website, and click on the link and it takes you, boom, right there. We decided, a fan pointed out that the Facebook link wasn't working anymore. And my team went, oh, maybe we could just, I don't know, streamline that. So if you go to JennyKoch.com, you can join the newsletter. I have Jamie's most recent release on my desk, but not mine. Mine came out from Ginger Blue Publishing as well. They like us. It's Something Wicked by me writing with B.B. Bayless, and it is the first in our Santa Paloma Mysteries.
James?
All right, you can find me at halfacrepond.com on my website, links to all my socials, which on the Facebooks, it's J.E. Pittman Writes, and everywhere else, the Instagrams, the Blue Skies, the other stuff is j.e.pittman. Newest release, literally hot off the press, Off Chance, third in the Felix Chance series. It wraps up the first major arc of the series. You get a satisfying conclusion, hopefully, and you're probably going to hate me for it. But oh well. That's how we do this. So that wraps up the Foolish Chance arc in Felix, and we'll move on from there with book 4 and going on. So that's the newest for me, literally just finished within the last week.
Fraser?
I'm at frasersherman.com, Fraser, and you can find lists of all my books there. I'm also on Facebook, on Blue Sky. I blog about comics at Atomic Junk Shop. I will have Southern Discomfort, a novel involving elves in Georgia in 1973, coming out sometime in the next 2 or 3 months. We're still trying to work out the kinks on the cover.
Wendy?
You can find me at wendyvancamp.com. I'm very active on Instagram, and there I'm at called No Wasted Ink, all one word. I'm on Blue Sky now. I'm still on Twitter, going strong on both. And my newest release, I actually remember to bring it here. It is Eccentric Orbits 5, the 5th edition of my speculative poetry anthologies. I'm the editor. I happen to have 2 of my poems in here, but there's like 40 poets in there, all of them excellent, and already have a couple of Riesling nominations for the anthology, which is very exciting. And there we go. And that's it. Oh, and I do have a monthly newsletter like Jenny does. It's through Substack, so nowastedink.substack.com. But if you go to my Instagram or to my website, you'll find links to it there. The newsletter is more than just text. I also narrate it, and you can get it as a podcast as well. And that's it.
And you can find me at jamespnettles.com. You can also find us at authoressentialsworkshops.com, creatingpros.com, and of course here at ConTinual. And we will see everyone again soon. Just remember, when you get blocked, keep working anyway.